Hey everyone, it's Coach Micah here, and I'm really excited for this video because it's the first coaching video that I have ever made, and hopefully the first out of a long list of them. I've got a lot of ideas, and I want to be able to help you guys as much as I possibly can. The subject for today's video is actually going to be analyzing the resolution that will start off our season in October. That's the LD resolution, resolved in foreign policy, diplomacy is more effective than military intervention. And what I hope to accomplish throughout this video is to give you a good starting place and to go over some of the ideas that exist within this resolution specifically. We'll be dissecting it word for word, maybe come up with a few case ideas, start off the research. I'm not going to pull through any articles just yet, but I want to give you a place to start. I want to give you that diving board so you can just dive right in. With that, let's get started here. So we have this resolution, and it gives us a description of why the resolution was created, maybe to give us some background about how we can think about this, but I really want to start with these words here. So let's do a quick overlook. So we have in foreign policy, of course, that's really important. We also have the keyword diplomacy. We're going to be talking about effectiveness, another resolution with effectiveness, and of course, military intervention. For those of you who weren't around a couple years ago, well, I guess I should say back in 2018, the resolution was preemptive warfare is morally justified. And I think this is a specific, I think this is a bird's eye view as compared to that resolution, similarly to how the criminal procedure, truth-seeking, and privacy resolution was really just an in-depth, specific example of the idea of accountability versus effectiveness. This is the bird's eye view of the preemptive warfare. So we're going to be seeing a lot of examples from that era. So we're going to be talking about some of those wars here today, some of the examples that I remember from when I competed back in 2018. But if you have a sibling or you know someone who was competing at that time, ask if they still have their research, because there's going to be a lot of evidence there that you can surely use. So with that, let's start with the resolution here. We're going to go word by word. That way we can get a really good understanding as to what this resolution is trying to teach us here. So first we have in foreign policy. So that's the key word right here. We have foreign policy. You're going to notice that the resolution does not say in United States foreign policy. It doesn't highlight a specific country. We're talking about in foreign policy in general. Now, what does this mean? You can talk about US and you can talk about non-US. We are going to get a better understanding for what happens in our country, but you're going to see a lot of examples that are tied to this foreign policy idea, specifically ones that are happening right now. We'll get into those in a second. So we have foreign policy. We also have diplomacy. That's a big one. How you define diplomacy and the strategies associated with diplomacy is going to be up to you. But most people think of diplomacy as peace talks, someone who is trying to get another country to come to the table to play ball as such. We also have the word is more effective than, and I'm categorizing this all as kind of one general term, right? More effective than. This is going to be where we derive our value. So how do we know when something is more effective than something else? Whether or not it meets the value or criterion. So let's say we have the value of life. Whichever side saves more lives will therefore be the one that is the most effective, for example. So we have more effective than, and then we have military intervention. Military intervention. This is really important, and how you define this is also going to be really important, because I think you can make a solid case for the idea of there being a threat. For example, I am going to come and get you. I'm going to threaten you by saying that if you don't stop, I will send my military in. Is that a peace talk? Is that military intervention? Is that either of those? I don't know. That's something you're going to have to figure out. So it's either going to be a threat or it's going to be action. What does military intervention look like in our age currently? That could be digital, it could be boots on the ground, drones. You get to decide what that means. And then when it comes to diplomacy, of course, here, let's move this down. There we go. When it comes to diplomacy, we could be talking about peace talks. We could be talking about, I don't know, what else would diplomacy include? We have peace talks, maybe treaties and agreements. Now, I haven't done a definition yet. I haven't shown you a definition yet. So that's what we're going to have to go for. I think key terms of more effective than, the key ones are probably going to be life and peace. Maybe something else. Maybe something that is dealing with the ends. Why would a country deal with the political aspects of another country? Could be to save lives, could be to bring peace, it could be for their own gain, for their own benefit. Maybe that is something that plays into your weighing mechanism. So these are the 4 ideas here. Okay. So let's make a couple observations. Obviously the first one we had was that one, this is specifically not the United States. So you can bring examples from any part of the world. I think, and this is something I was thinking about earlier, this is a historical resolution because we're talking about a trend. There are 2 current wars going on right now, and it is yet to be seen whether or not peace talks or military intervention are actually working. That's Israel, and it's in Ukraine and Russia. So the current examples right now aren't super helpful, so you're gonna have to look back a little ways and see the different wars and conflicts, or the wars and conflicts that have been prevented by peace talks for many years. You have to build up a trend, a general rule. You have to be able to compare all the times of the military intervention versus diplomacy, and that's going to be really key to what you understand this resolution as. Next, we have the idea of what we mean by being effective. Again, that is going to be tied to our value. So if we were to restate this resolution, we would be talking about in foreign policy, or when a country deals with another country, it is better to pursue diplomatic terms because you are more likely to reach the end, saving lives, bringing peace, than if you were to intervene using force, using your military. That is the idea that we're trying to espouse here. So first we have in foreign policy, and I think this is going to mean a couple things. So first, in foreign policy, we have the power to create policy and the power to enact policy. So what do we mean by in foreign policy? That's kind of a vague term. Enact policy. I think when we're talking about policy, we have to be discussing the entities that are able to create policies. So for example, what would president be able to do? Congress, I don't know the exact governmental structure of different countries, but you get the idea. We have to talk about entities that create policy along with the entities that enact the policy. Just like how does US law enforcement include people who merely catch criminals, police, or does it also include the judicial branch because you are enforcing the law by bringing punishment? So similarly here, we're talking about an entity that can create policy or enact policy versus enact policy, whichever is going to work best for your case flow and what you're thinking. So that's what we're talking about within foreign policy. Now we have diplomacy. We'll chop that right down here. And I think diplomacy specifically is a strategy to pursue peace over action. And this would be things like talks, meetings, trips by the ambassadors, right? Ambassadors. Right. So diplomacy is a very specific strategy that pursues peace over action. So when you are prioritizing diplomacy, you are not willing to take military action. You are trying to get a deal done. You want peace. You want peace without action, not peace with action, for example. So it's a very specific strategy that is used. We also have is more effective. So is more effective than. And here's the thing with this resolution. So, or this part of the resolution, excuse me. What is effectiveness? Well, as we decided many times over in the previous resolution, right? Effectiveness is achieving desired results. That's probably the best desired results. Achieving desired results. That is what effectiveness is. So what is our desired result? And luckily, because of the nature of this resolution, prioritize was the big term in the last one. What exactly does prioritize mean? We know what effectiveness means here. It's achieving results. So what exactly is the result? That is the value. So in other words, achieving the value. That is what we're trying to achieve here. And then we have military intervention. Military intervention. So what exactly does this mean? What does it mean to intervene? That's kind of a big word. So I think when it comes to intervention, you are specifically, let's draw a little arrow, your intention is, let's see here, to step into a scenario believing you can fix it. So for example, let's say you have siblings or family members or friends that are fighting. They too are fighting. You are going to step in and get right in the middle of it because you believe that you can make a difference. You can fix it. If you're not going in to make a difference or fix anything, I wouldn't necessarily call that intervention. Based on my own understanding, you could find a definition that proves that point, but I think this is a helpful place to start. We would also have to talk about, and we know what the military is, by the way, so that is self-explanatory. But when it comes to intervention, one, what does it mean to intervene, right? It talks about stepping into a scenario that you can fix or make a difference. That's key. So when it talks about stepping into something you can fix, that plays into the idea of you are going into a conflict that is already happening between two other countries, as opposed to making a difference means you don't necessarily have, two countries don't have to be fighting with each other. They don't have to be at war. But you believe that a specific country might harm you in the future, so you're going to intervene because you want to make a difference there. And that plays into the second question of why do we want to intervene? Why would we want to intervene? There's a couple reasons. Basically you want to reach an end goal. Obviously, one of those will be to achieve the value. If we're trying to save lives, then we need to intervene into a country who is harming lives. bring peace, get resources. Not sure, right? So we also have the idea of prevention. And this is where we're going to be talking about preemptive warfare when it comes to the idea of prevention. And we're going to look at some of these examples right now. There are a couple values that I think are going to work for either side. We'll get into those in a second. But first, we need to, as if we're going to introduce an actual case, we need some resolutional analysis points. Our first resolutional analysis, I think a good one would be to talk about when a choice is necessary. In other words, in conflict. So we have to talk about when the two actually come into conflict, because the geopolitical strategies of different countries are going to vary based off of where they are, what their end goals are. Some of them are already pursuing peace talks. Some of them are already pursuing military strategies. I think a key is to look at two or more countries that are about to go. Tensions are rising. Which strategy do we pursue in this case? Let's talk about one, Israel versus Palestine. If we were to put a freeze, I'll just say enemies. If we were to put a freeze on the situation, there's a momentary ceasefire. Do we go into it with, we gotta try diplomacy now? Or do we allow them to continue to intervene? Does the United States intervene on behalf of either side? Now, a past example, and I'll signify this with red, a past example is the 7-Day War. I believe that was what it's called. Is Israel taking a preemptive strike to its enemies to prevent them from attacking Israel. So that is a more of a historical example. Another current one that's happening right now is Ukraine versus Russia. So used to writing V because of the Supreme Court case. Ukraine versus Russia. Do we want Ukraine to pursue diplomacy or continue to pursuing military strategies? Another example I think we could talk about is the United States, and this is historically, right? Or if we're talking about currently, let's try that. Let's talk about this currently. Maybe something of our own gain. Is there a region of the world that is going to be beneficial for the United States? Is it something they should pursue? Because if that is the case, then maybe we want to try to make a deal, right? There's a deal or diplomacy, or we can invade, and that's our military I for intervention. Okay. So we have to talk about when a choice is actually necessary. And I think it is also good to point out that not all situations are similar. So maybe not all similar. The truth of the matter is, every geopolitical event happened for a different reason. Now, history does repeat itself, and sometimes those reasons run together, but there are unique aspects to each fight. There are unique aspects to each intervention, to each deal. So what may be true back in 1960, 1940, 1915, what may be true in those years would not be true now, and it is your burden to be able to prove that, right? So this is a good starting framework for the affirmative. And that's where we're going to start today, just a simple case. So let's go into some affirmative values. I'm going to use green for this. So we're going to do some AF values, okay? I think obviously a big one is going to be life. We want to save lives. Second one would probably be peace. That's a key one. Remember, life, saving lives, peace, the ability to live in a time and place where there is no active conflict. So the United States is at peace right now. We're not in the middle of a war, for example. We also have general welfare type values, so buffer values. General welfare, quality of life, societal well-being. These are the values that are going to be bigger than life. They're actually going to address things, address everything. You generally have a criterion under these values. So how do we know we've achieved general welfare? Maybe peace is a criterion to that. Stuff like that, okay? You could also have a value of justice to give each his due. Is there injustice happening in the world? Can the United States, can other countries try to solve that injustice? Can they go out and make an active effort to improve the situation? We also have E, and there are others too, but these are just ones to start with. Economic gain. Ooh, let's try this here. Economic gain. So what is going to improve the wealth, the health and wealth of a society? Would this make tariffs included in diplomacy? Is that a talk? Do we take action against countries that put tariffs on us? So tariffs would be an interesting thing to look into here. So let's talk about the negative. I think all of these can also be negative values. Let's just do a little line here. You can argue that the best way to save more lives is through military intervention. You can talk about the best way to achieve peace is through military intervention. Same thing with general welfare, Same thing with justice, right? To give a country that is doing something bad, you go out there and you attack them. Also the economy. So I think a lot of these values are going to cross apply. I don't see a lot of value clash happening in this resolution because they both have similar ends. When it comes to talking peace with another country or going to war with them, intervening with your militia, you have generally the same goals. You just believe that one of them is going to achieve it better than the other thing. Let's see if there's anything else we can do with this resolution as well. But this is basically where we're at when it comes to creating some ideas and when it comes to understanding the resolution as a whole. I hope this was really helpful to get an in-depth look into the resolution, to give you guys a starting place on what we can pursue in terms of case writing. What strategies do you want to go to? Using the emotions is going to be key. This is going to be very similar to last year's resolution when we're talking about government entities taking action on behalf of people, us, and the way that they do it is key. So for example, the negative is going to point out that diplomacy talks don't work, they're ineffective, they don't last very long, they can be abused, they can draw out conflicts, whereas the affirmative will argue that military intervention kills people, right? Those are going to be the big ideas that are going to be floating around here. But as long as you understand that, you have a good place to start when it comes to writing cases. As the weeks go by, I will also be writing cases, and I will have hopefully a source book for this particular resolution and looking at applications, the history of all of them. I really want to work on that for you guys. If you found this video helpful, I would appreciate some feedback. Let me know what you want to see in future coaching videos. I'm getting my setup ready. I'm brainstorming a lot of different things I can talk about as we approach this next year. We've only got a couple months. What is it? The 6th month of the year, it's June. So we have about 4 months until we begin the race to Nighthawk all over again. If there's anything else you want me to cover, please reach out to me. My email address is coachmicahdiaz@gmail.com. You can also go to my website, coachmicahdiaz.com. Don't go to the book a session page. That does not work. That's just my landing page right now. But I would love some love over there as well. If you're in need of coaching and you want someone who can meet via Zoom, if you're in Washington State, via in person, please let me know. I would be happy to help you guys out. My coaching sessions, I think at the moment, are going to be $30 an hour. I think that's just fair given my introduction again into the league. They've been higher, $45 an hour, but I'm going to do $30 an hour for you guys if that is something you want to pursue. I'd also love to coach your club. I'd love to come in and give you guys some ideas, help you guys write cases. I think that will be a topic for a future video as well. But please leave a like on this video and also follow me. That would be amazing. I would love to help you all out more with other resources as I create them. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have an amazing evening.